Hey, folks. Today's episode sponsored by, I'm going to say it, my favorite sponsor, sunsetlakecbd.com. Use the code LEFTISBEST. You get 20% off. You get 20% off their tinctures. Their good night oil is what basically gets me to sleep almost every night. I'm not going to lie. There are some nights I wake up at 4 a.m. and I'm up all night. And I'll take a couple more squirts of it, and still I'm, mad at my kids or whatever it is. I can't get back to sleep. But that's not Sunset Lake CBD's fault. Certainly, when I actually have to deal with my children, sometimes I'll have some CBD coffee on the weekends. Or I've actually thought about times of like, hey, what would happen if I gave my kid CBD fudge? Well, I'm not going to do that, but he would eat it because the fudge is delicious and it has CBD in it. He's not looking for that. But or they have gummies. They have CBD gummies. They have good night gummies. They have gummies with melatonin. They have gummies with ashwagandha mushroom that help you focus, some that make you calm. They have smokables, keef, pre-rolls. They have balms and lotions. I'm not going to get too detailed into that, but I use it for dry skin on, they got a great lotion that's unscented, and I use it for my dry skin on my, only my legs, my calves, really.
Not your elbows?
Well, not my elbows. I'm not going to say. No, there's something else, but that's too personal.
Oh, okay.
And it's not anything weird.
All right.
20% off Sunset Lake. Left is best. It's a great company. You know this. They've given thousands upon thousands, like literally tens of thousands of dollars. Things like strike relief funds and carceral reform, refugee resettlement. They've engaged in mutual aid. They provide money to Planned Parenthood. I mean, just on and on. Great business practices, $20 minimum wage, mostly employee owned. sunsetlakecbd.com. Fans of the show, they came up with a coupon code. It's really the best coupon code we have. We should make it for all of them, frankly. Left is best, 20% off. And now it is time for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday. Tuesday, Casual Tuesday. Wednesday, Casual Hump Day. Thursday, Casual Thurs. That's what we call it. And Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, January 17th, 2025. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Heather Parton, columnist at salon.com, or you may know her as Digby at the Uber blog Hullabaloo. Also on the program today, Supreme Court upholds the TikTok ban. Biden says he won't enforce. Trump says he may pass some special executive order to also not enforce. Meanwhile, the Israeli cabinet approves a ceasefire deal. Unclear what Israel thinks the terms of that deal are. And certainly we have a sense of what the incoming Trump administration believe the terms of that deal is. Kristi Noem confirmation hearings for head of DHS happening now. But surprise, surprise, Kristi, you're not going to be in charge of immigration. 2 czars are going to be Tom Homan and Stephen Miller.
It's for Du Bois, okay?
Du Bois.
Deportation and Du Bois.
HHS announces 15 additional drugs selected for Medicare price negotiations. Biden commutes the sentence of 2,500 people on nonviolent drug charges. Lake and Riley filibuster has been busted. 10 Democrats essentially paving the way for this incredibly reactionary and disturbing immigration law. The FTC sues John Deere for unfair repair practices and stops no-hire agreements. These are secret no-hire agreements amongst employers, creating monopsonies. Trump to make enriching crypto boys a national priority, thank gosh. And Mike Johnson sacks Ohio Representative Turner as the Intel chair and replaces him with a Trump crony. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. It is
Casual Friday.
Casual Friday. Yep, you said that in a very casual manner.
Yes.
There's a vocal fry on there.
Oh, too much? I could do the podcast
The new
like
2025 Vigeland.
Is that what
rollout.
vocal fry is? Because I've never been able to quite figure it out.
I can slip into it sometimes, and I'm going to try to not because I think it really does. People do not like it.
I think
People
they
do
should get over it, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to do the whole podcast like this.
Did we have a big argument about this like 3 years ago?
Yeah.
We did, right?
Yeah, I can't remember what
A
caused
big argument?
Well, I just like I'm wondering if like I had a dream about it or what, and apparently no, it was real.
There's a kerfuffle over whether it was misogynist or not, and I think in some cases a little bit.
Huh.
Oh, all right. There
Matt's
you go.
like, I'm not one of those people.
I like it.
He like more vocal fry, please.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not sure I know what it sounds like. But
I just
now
did
I
it.
know it. Now I know it.
All right.
Let's get to this. There's obviously we're hearing confirmation hearings in the Senate all this week, probably into next week. One of the ones that, and I would say that there's really two categories of Trump nominees to these cabinet positions. One is just the incredibly unqualified, but completely deferential and loyal to Trump. That's their primary qualification. The second is that they are loyal to Trump, but really more just have completely aligned incentives, which is we're all going to make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And we're all part of the same class that's going to make a lot of money. And that's about it. Here is Bernie Sanders asking the Treasury Secretary nominee, Scott Bessent, basically just another, is he a billionaire or is he just like 100 millionaire?
Yeah.
I think he's just 100 millionaire.
He is the founder of a firm called Key Square Capital Management. He has been a longtime Republican donor. That's really my recollection of his background.
And he
was a partner at Soros Fund Management, which is kind of
early day. Okay, so he disclosed 500 million. All right, so he's a half a billionaire. He is hoping to, as much as we are now at the top of oil production in this country, like peak, even I think from like back in the late 60s when we were the biggest oil producer in the world, we're now like the biggest fossil fuel producer in the world again. All-time highs for this country anyways, 13 million barrels a day. That's more than any, more oil than any country, I believe, has produced like ever.
Sheesh.
But just like in his first administration, Trump is going to attempt to basically make us a petrodollar state. Many respects, we are in part. But, when you talk about Greenland, a big part of that are the shipping lanes to be able to sort of sell this stuff. And here is Besant asked, like, are we all going to share in this economic explosion under Trump?
Right now in America, we have over 22 million workers who are making less than $15 an hour, and nearly 40 million people in our country earning less than $17 an hour. Shamefully, the federal minimum wage, despite the efforts of myself and other people here, have not been raised since 2009 and remains an unbelievable $7.25 an hour. Will you work with those of us who want to raise the federal minimum wage to a living wage to take millions of Americans out of poverty?
Senator, I believe that the minimum wage is more of a statewide and regional issue.
So you don't think we should change the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Bessent?
Shocker.
Well, here's the thing I don't understand. Why wouldn't you be for lowering it then? Like, I mean, if you think it's like, listen, if you think there's no purpose served, because you can't possibly think that a minimum wage that existed 15 years ago, and really it didn't go up very much in that 2009 I raised. It was like
from $6.55
literally
to what it is now.
A couple of quarters.
Yeah.
To think that the minimum wage has not risen along that time when, we've had obviously massive inflation, but also just steady inflation as you do, even 2% a year over the course of 15 years is significant. We've also had increases in productivity during that time. So somebody's making all that extra money. But the idea that if you don't even think that it should keep up, then why wouldn't you just advocate for it and come out and say, like, I think it should be abolished, that there should be no federal minimum wage? Because, and he probably does, he just knows that it's politically unpalatable to say so. But understand, when they talk about making America great, it is primarily, we'll bring a couple other people along because, in any, when you're going out fishing, you're going to get some fish that you didn't mean to get in those big nets. It is to enrich the wealthiest in this country. And which is not to say that the Biden administration did a particularly great job in minimizing wealth inequality, but they're going to take another $20 billion out of the IRS. We're going to see enforcement levels and the type of enforcement that we saw just 5 or 6 years ago, which was virtually nil for people making over $400,000, $500,000 a year. And when you get up into the $500 million range of these guys, forget about it.
It was supposed to be, if we were to have kept up with inflation during the Bernie campaign, the most conservative estimate would have been a $15 minimum wage would have been right to make sure that people are living above the poverty line and they're still able to work one job. This is the thing. Like, if by the way, if it's a states issue, as Bessent says, then why did the states that are the most Republican just have their minimum wage at what the federal minimum wage is, right? Because the federal minimum wage sets the standard for states that want to be as exploitative as possible with their workforce. And a lot of those states, by the way, including Arkansas, where Huckabee Sanders is the governor, just signed into law recently elimination of paperwork requirements for undocumented, or not for child labor, but it really is for undocumented young kids, and some of them get caught and killed in like meat packing facilities. This has happened before. They're also, so in those states, they're paying those workers the federal minimum wage, but there's also a sub workforce that is beneath the cloak of secrecy in a lot of these areas, and those are undocumented laborers who they can pay even less than that. And that's what happens when you don't have regulation. So like those states that want to deregulate everything, they're bound by the federal minimum wage. But when they can get around it and they can exploit other labor forces that are even more desperate, they'll do that too.
I mean, if the theory is that we shouldn't have a federal minimum wage because it, a place like Arkansas or some place like Mississippi or
Pennsylvania still
or,
has $7.25.
Pennsylvania, maybe there are parts there where, it's people are just not wealthy enough to support a federal minimum wage because the businesses can't survive. Well, then, why wouldn't the theory also be that we should be raising taxes on the highest income brackets in those states? Because the presence of really wealthy people amongst people who can't, people who are low income raises the prices for other people. And B, I mean, I think it makes more sense. You could deliver that money back down into the state. I mean, it is a one-way street with these folks. It is a one-way street. States, we should be sensitive to localities when it comes to making sure that people making the lowest amount possible are not making more. But why wouldn't we do the same? Why don't we put a cap on how much you can make in a state like that?
Yeah, and I think it's overstated to the degree to like North Dakota, Fargo, if you are making $7.25 an hour for a month, you're making not quite $1,300 and probably paying $800 for rent. That doesn't work anywhere.
No, it doesn't work anywhere because then those people have multiple jobs. If you are in that situation, a lot of times you have multiple jobs. Or you find your way to make money in a different way. You're going to
schedule certainty.
Drive for Uber, right? Like this is the kind of economy that they want to create, where the entire underbelly is of people who are unable to get by on one job, and then beneath that is that immigrant population that is exploited and has fewer labor protections. And so this is just going to be exacerbated in the next 4 years. That's what they're going to try to do.
All right, in a moment, we're going to be talking to Heather Parton, or Digby, about this era of oligarchs that we're in. It is we've talked about, I don't think we could talk about it enough, frankly, because it really does dictate what we're going to be seeing on a daily basis. First, a couple of words from our sponsors. This stuff is amazing. I've talked about it many times. I use it to, it's both. I mean, imagine something that has both health benefits and tastes it's like a sweet treat. Mm. Now, all you got to do is imagine Manuka Honey. It's a rich, creamy, it's really, honestly, the most delicious honey you're ever going to try. It's has the consistency of caramel. It has the taste of honey, but something else. I don't know what else. I don't know how else to describe it. It's really incredibly delicious. It is produced in the remote forests of New Zealand from the Manuka tea tree, and it's ethically produced by Manuka's master beekeepers in these forests. Manuka honey contains powerful nutrients to support immunity and gut health. It also tastes amazing, whether you put it on, my son likes to put it on a grapefruit, but you could put a little bit in your honey, in your tea, wherever you use honey. Manuka honey is about 10 times better, but also literally 3 times better in terms of antioxidants and prebiotics than your average honey. The nectar from this Manuka tree is packed with bioactives. And, I think everybody knows that honey is somewhat antibacterial. There is a special antibacterial compound called MgO that comes from the nectar of this tea tree. And Manuka third-party tests every single harvest for this MgO, makes the results available through their QR system and on the labels of their honey. You can actually get stuff that has a little bit more or a little bit less of this MgO. That's why you're starting to see it, they use this kind of honey in face creams now, and they use it in, you're just seeing it more and more in terms of like, I don't know, healthy drinks. All you need is 1 heaped teaspoon each morning to get the most of the amazing bioactives in Manuka. Of course, you can use it throughout the day for sweetening things or getting rid of sugar, et cetera, et cetera. They've got these compostable sticks that are great to put in lunches if you have kids, or I guess, I don't know, anybody you're sending out to, packing lunches for, but also just to walk around, to have in your bag. You want something sweet, nothing could be better. Thanks to Manuka for supporting the Majority Report, and now it's easier than ever to try Manuka Honey. Head to manuka.com/majority. You get $25 off the starter kit, which comes with an MGO 850 plus Manuka honey jar, 5 honey travel sticks, a wooden spoon, and a guidebook. That's MANUKORA.com/majority for $25 off your starter kit. Link and is in the podcast and YouTube description and at majority.fm. Also, sponsoring the program today, one of the problems with these huge tech companies is not just they're creating monopolies, but one of the ways that they're doing it is they're doing it because they are scraping all of your data. Shadowy data brokers make a living compiling detailed profiles of your online activity and selling them to marketers and other corporate interests that want to control you with targeted ads. They're not selling a product. They are literally selling you. But you don't have to let them. There is a way to keep your browsing history truly private, and I use it every day. It's called an app called ExpressVPN. I'd like to thank ExpressVPN for supporting the Majority Report, and here's the deal. Visit expressvpn.com/majority. You can get an extra 4 months free. One of the easiest ways for data brokers to track you is through your device's unique IP address, which also reveals information about your location. With ExpressVPN, your IP address is hidden. That makes it much more difficult for data brokers to monitor, track, and monetize your private online activity. I can also tell you that when you send an email with like Gmail, there are ways to track your IP address.
Oh, really?
Yes, I learned that back in the day because we would sometimes get some very threatening email addresses, emails, and I can't remember exactly. It's you can Google it. You can find out where it's from. So you can write back and go like, how is Fort Lauderdale this time of year?
Right.
And freak them out. But nevertheless, ExpressVPN hides your IP address. It also makes it much safer for you to use things like public Wi-Fi, wherever, at a mall or at an airport. 100% of your network traffic is encrypted. And the thing that I love about ExpressVPN, it works on all your devices, phone, laptop, tablet, you name it, whatever it is. And all you got to do is tap one button and it turns it on and you're protected. It is literally that easy. That's the part that I like the best about it, frankly. I mean, I like the security, but I'm saying it just makes it so much easier. It sounds complicated. It sounds intimidating. One press of a button and you don't even know that you're being protected, but you are. Protect your online privacy today by visiting expressvpn.com/majority. That's expressvpn.com/majority. You can get an extra 4 months free. expressvpn.com/majority. Folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Heather Parton, you may know her as Digby. Heather Parton Digby from the blog Hullabaloo. Welcome back to the program, and very glad that you are still safely in your home, being out in LA. Maybe that's a good place for us to start. Like, what? Give us broadly your take on what's happened, and also, I mean, you wrote a piece about Republicans seeing the LA wildfires as an opportunity to punish California. I mean, just talk about the dynamics behind that, because I'm curious, as a Los Angelino, what your perspective is on this.
Well, I mean, it's been absolutely horrific. First of all, this has been an incredibly tragic environmental disaster. I know people one of my closest friends lost his home. He got out barely with just the clothes on his back. People scurrying, everywhere, literally running for their lives. I mean, it's an absolute horror. It's a hurricane by fire, which it's unimaginable. And for those of us who live here, and in a weird way, we're lucky that it's big city, so we have local news. When this happens in small towns, which it does and has up in Northern California, it happened a couple of years ago to Paradise. You remember that the fires went through there. They don't have, these local news deserts. I don't know what people do, because at least here you have that available in a big city like LA. But it was an absolute nightmare. And as I'm sitting here in my living room waiting to find out, I was in a standby to evacuate. I live in Santa Monica. I'm reading on my social media, Republicans and internet trolls and the usual people absolutely gloating over the fact that Los Angeles is on fire. And then probably within hours, Republican politicians saying that they are going to refuse to provide aid to California. And much of it based upon complete and utter bullshit, I must say. Because they're making assumptions. I don't think anybody that maybe if you have to live here or you got to live in a fire zone to understand. You got 80 to 100 mile an hour winds, zero humidity, and a fire starts in any kind of a place where it's dry. And why is it dry? We all know that. It's because of climate change. Climate change is causing massive weather events all over the world. We're not unique. We just had a massive flood in North Carolina and hurricane on the East Coast. We had fires in New Jersey last summer that you were smelling it, I think, in New York City. I mean,
we had one in Prospect Park.
Yep.
Because the leaves were so dry.
And over in New Jersey, that was November, right?
Yeah, it was a huge fire. I mean, and floods all over Europe, all over in Indian subcontinent, in Asia, China. I mean, climate change is upon us. This is not theoretical anymore. This is happening to us, and we're just at the leading edge of it. It's the vanguard of climate change is happening right now, and you hear these idiots talking about ridiculous things. Like I just heard this morning Rand Paul saying they should build cisterns out there filled with water from the Pacific Ocean so you could just put a hose in it and then you could put out all the fires. You just do people have any idea? I mean, the problem was that the winds were so strong that the normal firefighting strategies, they couldn't do it. They couldn't get them done because no airplanes could fly. We do have a big, huge reservoir out there called the Pacific Ocean, and planes you can watch it all day long here in LA, go and scoop water right out of the Pacific Ocean and drop it on the fire. They couldn't do that because the wind had 80-mile-an-hour winds. The planes couldn't fly, the helicopters couldn't fly. And I heard an LA firefighter talking about this, saying, look, we could have had an army of firemen out here standing at the ready with the water ready to go, and it wouldn't have made a difference when you've got 80-mile-an-hour winds. The embers were going. We had 100 houses going up at the same time. So this was a firestorm. And the idea that these Republicans, particularly our new president, Donald Trump standing there talking about some delusional big valve up in Northern California that all Gavin Newsom has to do is just turn on the valve and all clean, fresh water from Canada will come flowing down to Los Angeles. I mean, this is the stuff of idiocracy. It really is. It's that stupid. And so this is what we're dealing with. And of course, they're taking full advantage of it. And I fully expect that there's going to be a gigantic battle to get LA any more aid to try and rebuild from this horrible disaster. Now, I saw that Biden said this morning he signed a 180-day proclamation for 100% of funding from the federal government. I don't know if that holds up, if Trump can withhold it or whatever, but they're going to try because these Republicans are determined to punish California. Tommy Tuberville said it out loud. He said, they don't deserve it. They don't deserve our help.
I mean,
so there you go.
It's a twofer here, right? To make this about incompetence.
Yeah.
Because one, it denies any conversation about climate change. So
Absolutely.
you don't have to justify like we need to actually, grab more fossil fuel out of the ground. It's perfectly legitimate for us to roll back any type of benchmarks that we want to hit in terms of climate change. We can, our EPA can eliminate the words climate change, which they're going to do again, from any documents, whatnot. There's just a lot less resistance if you deny climate change's role in this. Like we never heard anybody. I don't think I heard a single thing about the competence of North Carolina officials when it came to everything was just like FEMA's actually going to take away your home or whatever, garbage was there. All of these things are deployed as a way of changing the conversation from what it should be so that people understand the implications of it. And then the second part is he hates California because of where it, it really is a drag on the Republicans across the country in terms of national elections. But this is a perfect opportunity for them to try and revive the Republican Party in California by not providing aid. I mean, this is, and I would say maybe it's a threefer because all those billionaires that are, part of Trump's cabinet or his czars or whatever it is, they're going to swoop in and they're going to buy up everything.
Oh, yeah.
Everything on pennies on the dollar.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many aspects to this as we're watching this unfold. I mean, and naturally, I mean, you can't believe the devastation. I mean, it's overwhelming. And it's not just Pacific Palisades, which is near where I live on the coast. And we all watched that horror. That was the biggest fire. And it took out thousands of homes. And businesses and all kinds of structures, schools, churches, everything. And that's an affluent community. Over on the other side of town, there's Altadena, which is a working class Black community, basically. I mean, it's not all Black, but it was founded by Black people and was one of the original towns before that was founded for Black people because they weren't allowed to buy houses in the rest of the city a century ago. So it's been there for a long time and it had a lot of historic buildings and is majority minority there. Also completely devastated, just came roaring through that town and thousands of people left homeless. So you've got all that too. You've got this tension between the affluent community that went down and who knows what's going to happen there. They all had trouble getting insurance though. So that's going to be even a problem for some of them. And many people in the Palisades have lived there. They inherited their houses from their parents who had them back in the 50s or whatever. So there's plenty of people there who aren't super moneyed up, but there are plenty of people who do have it. And then Altadena, this is going to be, it is a devastating, sort of tragedy for these people. And the politics of it are going to get very complicated for all the reasons that you just said, and the fact that they are determined to destroy Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, because he's a potential, presidential candidate. They may be able to completely take him down. And he's actually been pretty good in this whole thing. I mean, he was on the ground immediately doing all the right things, and he's fighting back on all this misinformation. and they're doing what they can. But it's a microcosm of, the problems that we're going to see writ large for America as we're dealing with this new very magnified Republican Party, and just the fact that
climate change.
And climate change. I mean, that was the point of my piece there, is that I'm sitting there going, you remember the movie Don't Look Up, the one that was done by, and that was sort of a metaphor for climate change. It was an asteroid coming. They couldn't get anybody to look up and see that it was coming. But that's wrong. I always thought that metaphor was a little bit lame, because an asteroid is just an occurrence, right? I mean, that's an act of God or whatever. We're doing this to ourselves. Climate change is caused by us. It's not just that we're not paying attention to it. It's that we're actively making it worse. Right. And we've got a new, administration coming in here that has determined they're going to reverse as many of Joe Biden's climate, friendly legislation as they can. And they're going to make it worse. And Trump has said it over and over again. What's the first thing that you're going to do when you get in there? Drill, baby, drill, is what he says. I mean, you can't drill anymore in America. We're the biggest exporter of oil there is now. There's plenty, this is not an issue, but they're going to keep saying this because he is determined to enable the fossil fuel industry and protect them and give them everything they want. And there was just a hearing this week with the new, I can't remember his name, the new energy secretary that he has named. Absolutely.
Zeldin?
No, it's not Zeldin. I think Zeldin is EPA.
Oh, he's EPA.
I think.
Sorry.
I can't remember who the energy is. An oil
Chris
guy.
Wright.
Chris Wright. That's who it was. And I didn't see it. I just read about it. He just basically said, no climate change doesn't exist. Not going to do it. No admission whatsoever that it's even something that you need to think about. So I'm telling you, I mean,
which
I'm
is
not
stunning in the wake of this,
shocking.
right? I mean, it's stunning in the wake of this.
See?
And that's, let me ask you this in terms of because there's the incompetence thing, as if there is any really way to deal with 100-mile-an-hour winds when the entire city is a tinderbox, and the fact that it's on two separate sides of the city too, right?
Exactly. And they were cropping up all over the place. There was one coming for Hollywood that they barely put out. It was coming right down.
When they run out of that, it becomes like some other problem, right? It's the homeless people. That's the big thing. Is it the homeless people?
Illegal immigrants.
Illegal immigrants or homeless. What is there a sense at this point of is anybody in LA, I know everybody's speculating as to what the causes of this were? I mean, outside of look, it could be anything in this environment, in a wet area, but with high winds and this type of tinderbox, it doesn't take much.
Well, we're having the driest winter we've had in something like 40 years. We haven't seen rain since last year at this time. I mean, literally almost like a couple of dribbles during the summer. It is really, really dry, and you can feel it. Just living here, you can feel that it's like being in the desert here, and that's not common. We're on the coast, right? Usually we have some humidity. It is super dry, and so they don't know specifically what caused the two big fires, the one in Altadena and then the Pacific Palisades. In Altadena, there are people who live there that think that it was a power line that caused it. They've got some video of it, in which case they're already filing suit against PG&E, the electric company, which they did up in Northern California too, for the Paradise Fire, because they should have shut down all the transformers. And if they didn't do that, it's going to be a massive lawsuit. I don't even know how that's going to go. The Palisades fire, I think, from what I'm gathering, nobody's saying anything specifically, but that may have been set by a human, in which case that is a mass, murderer, basically.
Like arson, or I mean, in LA proper, according to the LA Fire Department, more or less a majority of fires can be traced to homeless people who are living outside. Maybe they're using a burner to cook their food or whatever it is. I would imagine in New York City, you could also find a similar dynamic where low income folks contribute to the most fires because they're living in the most precarious of situations, right? Like they're living in homes with less electrical code, with failures of electrical code, or they're using their stove for heat in different times or whatever. They're using electric heaters in emergencies and stuff like that. But that's I mean, that's a different dynamic in the scope of these things. Like most of these homeless people are living in urban areas, I would imagine.
Downtown. There's a graph. There's a graph that this is being lifted. You know, a lot of the right wingers are using this from the LA Times that did this in 2021. She's saying like around 54% of the fires that they respond to are in these unhoused encampments. But they also did a map of where it's concentrated, and downtown LA. It's in downtown LA, right?
It's not up in the woods. I mean, this fire started. I mean, if you've ever been down here, you know, in the Pacific Palisades is in the Santa Monica Mountains foothills, leading over to the ocean and Malibu and all of that. And it's very wooded and grassy, and you know, it's a very, you know, it's wild. They're called wildfires for a reason, even though it's highly populated. It's still, this fire started in the woods, and they don't know. I mean, I had heard that they had thought maybe there had been a previous fire there that the fire department had put out, and then maybe it had some smoldering embers that you know caught
Apparently
up again.
What can happen is the plant life, it can be burning in the roots.
Yes.
And you can't see it from above. And that's why they're going around, you know, after the fact, digging up, literally digging up each one of these plants, because the root can be underground. And then when the wind picks up, it sort of flashes back up.
Exactly. And it's one reason also why people are still evacuated. They can't go back into the fire zone. There's a lot of frustration. They want to go see what they've lost and check their house. And some of them, you know, horrifically, this thing started in the middle of the day. So many people were at work and their animals and pets were at home and they couldn't get to them. I mean, the whole thing is just awful. And not to mention the wildlife that have been affected by this in a place like Palisades, where they're, you know, I mean, they've got mountain lions and everything up there. It's just really awful. So yeah, these people are not being allowed to go back in because the fire department is going around and, you know, doing exactly what you said, Sam. They're trying to, you know, ensure that the fire's out, because we've got these winds coming up again. It's very unusual to have this particular, I mean, there are always fires around in California, and there always have been. But this confluence of this really extreme drought that we're having here in LA, and these winds happening at the same time, it's an unusual thing, and I'm afraid we're going to have to get used to it, and everybody's going to have to get used to this. I remember there was a whole bunch in the first couple of days, people on social media going, well, people shouldn't live there. They shouldn't. Why is anybody living in a fire zone? You shouldn't live anywhere where there's climate change. And I'm going, where would that be? Where there isn't climate, you know, where do we go, folks? Because I'm sorry, this is going to happen to everybody. Everyone is under some kind of a threat. Look at the tornadoes that are happening in places that never had them before. Category 5 hurricanes happening every year. That's unusual. Fires, floods, everything. So, I mean, I hope we really should wake up. This is the second largest city in the United States, one of the largest cities in the world. Just basically, we were all sitting watching TV, wondering if the whole damn place was going to burn down, because there were fires coming from every direction.
I want to move on, but, you know, Altadena is not like a wooded area.
No,
and when you're getting down, I mean, there's a lot of cement there, like, you know,
it's a suburb, yeah.
And, you know, you've got fires that are jumping over 5-lane highways. I mean, people don't understand, like, just the distance that these fires can go with that level of wind.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is the case that I don't know, you know, I don't know the specific numbers, but whatever the percentage of places that we have now that are not built to sustain climate change, right? Like, you know, Miami, everybody knows that Miami is on a clock. Yeah. It is built on essentially a sponge. And as sea level rises, you're just not going to be able to say there's no dikes or there's no sea walls or whatever. The percentage of places like that is increasing as climate change goes. I mean, it's almost sort of like the same dynamic, ironically, as, you know, where do you drill for oil? Well, tell me what the price of a barrel of oil is, and I'll tell you if it's if it makes it. The higher the price of the barrel of oil, the more places you can drill, because all of a sudden, if it takes, if you got to go down 500 feet as opposed to like 200 feet or whatever the numbers are, as that price of oil goes up, it makes it more sense. And as the price of oil goes down, then all of a sudden you shut all these wells and you don't explore in the, in the ocean or whatever it is. We've got the opposite dynamic, maybe not coincidentally, with climate change, which is as this continues, there are going to be less and less places where you can live and not have to expend huge resources to ensure, like, you could, and maybe this is ultimately going to happen, bury every single power line within miles of downtown LA. But that's going to cost a ton of money, and people will complain out the wazoo for this. Our society is just not, the mentality is just not there to say, we're going to expend money to protect ourselves. And we can't even get to that stage because they're still in the denial stage. And that's why people are deploying stuff like, it's, Karen Bass went to Ghana, and everybody knows that's,
turn on the valve. Yeah. I mean,
exactly.
It's like,
or, homeless people, immigrants. That's why this is happening. I mean, it's
wake up,
it's denial.
Wake up, world, because this is only going to get worse. And I feel so sorry for younger generations facing this, because, I'm not going to be here to see the worst of it, but they are. And it is not, if this last week is any indication, it's going to be very, very difficult. I mean, awful. And, good luck.
And let's talk about the second part of this too.
Yeah.
The sort of like in the wake of it. In the wake of Katrina, I think every school in New Orleans became a charter, sort of like a semi-privatized. Yeah. A lot of people never moved back. And a lot of like real estate developers come in. That is, including the federal funds that came in. It is quite clear to me that the Trump administration is going to use, federal funds there as a who knows what. But you've written this piece about the oligarchy, and it seems like a very unique oligarchy in my estimation. Kamala Harris bragged that she had more millionaires supporting her, or billionaire, but Donald Trump was put into office with like literally half of his campaign, maybe more, right? Because all that outside expenditure from Elon Musk, a lot of it is is dark money. Like, we don't know. But literally maybe $500 million maybe came from one guy. Elon Musk, I would imagine 500 million. I mean, we know publicly he did about 250. Yeah. And so it's very easy to believe that there was another 250 associated with that. If not from him, then his sort of like network. And Miriam Adelson with 120 million out of her pocket. And then, also more from her network. So you really got about 2 or 3 people here. And then you watch guys like Zuckerberg, billionaire, Bezos, billionaire. They're all contributing to, his inaugural fund. They're all running around, guys like Andreessen also pouring money in. These are the type of people who are going to come into LA, where you have a lot of people who don't have fire insurance, where you have a lot of people who are like, I'm going to build up bills from now until, whatever my house is going to be rebuilt. Who knows how long that's going to take. They're all going to sell, and they're going to end up selling on 80 cents on the dollar of whatever, they were going to get from their insurance thing, if that. And it's going to be maybe it's Rick Caruso, but it's going to be others too, who are going to come in and just buy up everything. Yeah. They're going to buy up everything. And this is also the dynamic of climate change.
Absolutely. They call it disaster capitalism, right? I mean, I think there's a book written about it after Katrina, shock doctrine. And after Katrina, I don't know if people remember this. Karl Rove, who the Bush's brain, had this whole program that they put together to bring in private equity and private money to come in and just privatize everything in New Orleans. It ended up, because that was such a disaster for the Bush administration, I think that it didn't fully take hold in a way that would have, in the way that they envisioned. Here, I mean, of course, I mean, and there are a lot of rich people here who are going to be jumping on that as well, that are already in LA. I mean, there's plenty of tech and entertainment and all kinds of billionaires who live here. So I fully expect this to happen, and I fully expect it to be enabled by Donald Trump. And this is going to be one of the payoffs that they make, and they'll be pushing hard for the local. Gavin Newsom has already said, look, we're going to loosen regs, we're going to loosen all the things, the red tape, for good reason. But at the same time, what does that do? That enables the disaster capitalists to come in and take advantage of it. So of course that's going to happen. And when you look at the makeup of this new Trump administration, I mean, I'm absolutely sickened by the fact that he's having these people come and sit behind him. He's having Zuckerberg, Musk, Bezos, and I think the guy from TikTok is being invited.
The Microsoft CEO was just down in Mar-a-Lago earlier this week.
They're all coming to pay homage and pay tribute to the new dear leader. It's absolutely sickening. I mean, the first, these people are supposed to be, they're so rich, they have FU money for days, right? They have no reason to have to do this. They really don't. They are insulated from whatever they want to do. Those guys have more money than God. They want to do this. They're enjoying themselves. And in fact, I think it's a club that they now are coming in. They all want to be a member of the club that's hanging around Donald Trump. They want to be like Elon, dancing to YMCA. It's enough to make me sick to see this happening and to see Donald Trump, who, he's childlike, right? I mean, he's almost, I don't know. I think he's more degraded than Biden at this point, just in a weirdly different way. And he's down there just basking in the attention from all these rich guys going, look at all my best friends. They're the richest men in the world. And the funding of politics for those guys is pocket change. They have too much money. That is the problem. That no one should have that much money. The amount of power that buys is overwhelming. And it's because that this concentration of wealth has become, we're finally seeing it actually come to fruition. All the warnings from Bernie Sanders and, Ralph Nader and everybody else talking about this for years. Here it is. These guys are sitting on the dais at the inauguration of the President of the United States. They are his kitchen cabinet.
What is it about tech then? I mean, is it that they are really at the forefront of this at least transparent oligarchical kind of kissing of the ring? My theory is there was those antitrust lawsuits by Lena Khan that really pissed them off. But Zuckerberg also was on with Joe Rogan and was talking about how the EU's antitrust mechanism was going after them. And for me, it does feel like we're at this level with these tech companies where social media is no longer their primary product that they're providing for people. I mean, Zuckerberg was on with Rogan and was laughing at Apple. Like, they haven't come up with something new since the iPhone. What have you come up with?
Exactly.
All they do, Facebook is unusable. Instagram, they deprioritize political content to the election, and now they're picking it back up because it's good for engagement. Do you think that they're kissing the ring because there's a level of they are at the end of what they can actually provide the American public, and they're so rich that their concentration of wealth actually makes zero sense. They're not providing manufacturing equipment or anything tangible. It's just it's monopoly money almost to a degree. And I just wonder if there's something internally that their lawyers are all telling them the same thing about what's coming on the horizon.
Well, that's really an interesting theory. I have no idea. I mean, I don't know what the business. It's hard for me to sort of speculate what kind of business motives they may have for doing this, other than the obvious, get rid of all regulations and lower my taxes and all the usual stuff. Because you've got CEOs and hedge fund managers and all these guys on Wall Street saying, oh, good, we can, say all the bad words again, and I feel free, I'm liberated or whatever. But there's something about these tech guys, I agree with you, Emma, that's specific. And I think some of it has to do with, and maybe I'm being simplistic here, but I honestly, when you look at these guys like Musk and Zuckerberg, I mean, they're kind of pathetic weirdos. Mm-hmm. I actually think that there's some psychology involved here, as much as there is some kind of business motivation. There's something about this. I think they have so much money, as you say, more money than they could ever possibly spend. And they don't have really, it doesn't seem, Musk has some imagination about what he might want to do with his fortune in terms of, SpaceX, which one of them just blew up last night and almost took down a bunch of airplanes. But, he has some stuff that he's doing or was doing. I don't know where you find the time to oversee his businesses other than Twitter. But for the most part, you're right. I mean, what they have created is this sort of ephemeral social media world that just seems to have kind of, I don't know, it's reached its zenith. It's become a mature business in that sense. And so what do they do with their money? And to me, it seems like, especially watching Zuckerberg on Rogan, I mean, that was really pathetic. That's like a delayed adolescence there that you're seeing. This guy dressed up the way he was with the gold chain.
He's dressed like a TikTok 15-year-old. This is how I see. I don't see any. I'm 30. No one my age dresses like this. It's all teenagers. It's crazy. Anyway.
It really was. It was creepy. And Musk too. I mean, look at him jumping up and down and doing all this weird stuff and kind of sucking up to Trump this way. There's a psychological aspect to this with
it's
these
the same
guys.
Psychology that wants to be the first trillionaire. I mean, that's what's going on here. I think it's like there's a socio and maybe psychopathy to someone who wants to amass that much money. Yes. That has existed through time, right? Like we've had kings who are probably like real weirdos and are mad because their mom didn't love them or whatever it was. The queen, I was always the ugly duckling, and
that's Musk.
I'm king. Yeah, the only reason why I'm king is because my brother died in battle, and I'm going to prove myself. Whatever it is. But the astonishing thing about this, and you write, you in your piece, you mentioned, you bring up Putin in Russia because the oligarchs there. And Ukrainian oligarchs. I mean, coming out of the post-Soviet Union, similar dynamic, except for the power dynamic between them and Trump is different than Putin and his oligarchs, because those oligarchs in Russia really do not have the ability to move around in the way, with Putin, in the way that like Musk and these guys do with Trump. They may be, there's other factors, political factors. So they've got to sort of like project a certain servility to Trump and this and that. But at the end of the day, they know Trump can't really push me out, like literally, of an apartment building.
Right.
But Putin can, and does. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's a controversial statement amongst most sort of like people. And what does that portend? Because there's no, everybody thinks like, oh, Trump's going to kick Elon Musk out of his orbit. He might, but I think by the time he kicks Elon Musk out of his orbit, it's only going to be because Elon Musk has achieved what he needs to achieve in that orbit. Like, I don't think Musk is beyond sort of like kowtowing to Trump for as long as he has to, because at the end of the day, he goes home and he's like, I just made another $200 billion. I'm this much closer to being a trillionaire and literally being like king of the world in many respects. And this is, I keep saying this. I think this is the fifth time I've said this in the past like 8 days. We need to like find a historian. Like if there's been any dynamic like this, like I know that we've had, the Carnegies and the Mellons and the Rockefellers. And maybe, Rockefeller was in that neighborhood,
and Trump's obsessed with William McKinley. Like I want to get a McKinley historian on to talk about what we can expect his obsessions maybe. That's whole nother story.
But he even knows about McKinley. I don't know who put McKinley in his head, but
Sorry, I know Sam was in the middle of talking, but I do think it's the tariffs. That's McKinley. That's his obsession. And I think the Greenland thing is McKinley took a lot of territory during his presidency. I think that's part of his fixation. And as you say, he is diminished. So he has these like little obsessive things that he focuses on.
We just got to have Dave Jamaica saying you underestimate how stupid Musk is. I think when you get this amount of money, and this is the thing that people don't understand, and this is why like what we saw over the past, particularly through COVID, once you hit a critical mass, and this is why we have so many more billionaires today than we did just even 10 years ago. Once you hit a critical mass with this kind of money, and particularly in an elevated interest rate environment, but just in general, it picks up its own velocity of accumulation. Like, your first 100 million might be tough, but your second 100 million is going to be easier. And then your second 200 million is going to be a little bit easier than that. And so on, because you can just, you can take more risks. You can backstop those. You become more important to other people's businesses in existence. And so you get more bailouts. You gain more political power. So the idea of the Saudis coming in and buying TikTok for you on your behalf, this is the thing that I think like we as virtual peasants relative to these people have no concept of what's going on there. What do you have a sense of like where this leads or I mean,
the only thing that comes to mind, my imagination, I think Trump is diminished. I think that there are people that are around him that have agendas of their own, people like Russell Vought and, people like that are set on doing things. The Congress is a complete mess. I don't know how they're going to get anything done. And I think Musk will probably he's already shown that he's willing to meddle there for his own purposes and be a chaos agent, if nothing else. Trump himself, I think he cares about revenge and making money for himself. I think that's a big part of the reason that he's surrounding himself with these people, because he's, if nothing else, it's trickling down to him in the hundreds of millions. He's already made $500 million, I guess, since the election in his, in various ways. I saw $500 million. So it's hard for me to see how this actually comes out in terms of government as we understand it. But when I see Elon Musk doing stuff like now he's meddling in German politics, he's meddling in UK politics, he's using his influence, fame, celebrity, and money to influence these places where, it almost seems like it's a game to him. Like he's just, he sees something on Twitter or on X and goes, and just he's uninformed. He's not the smartest guy in the world by any means. He's just the richest guy in the world, and it's not the same thing. So the only thing that my imagination takes me to is some kind of crazy Bond villain sort of thing, which seems nuts, Goldfinger or something, where you have this, he has the idea that he's going to be able to become this global influence. Mm-hmm. And he's surrounding himself with other people who are kind of other rich guys who, in their race to become trillionaires, also see the possibilities of being able to do that. They have so much money that I think that they're thinking bigger in turn, and of course, Musk has always been thinking, we're going to go to Mars or whatever. But, I think they may think that they can conquer Earth first.
Well, he's also obsessed with his biological data being spread to his children. Musk, we talked about this a little yesterday. He epitomizes this postmodernism of he thinks that there's no external, or both Trump and him and these other billionaires, there's no real objective truth. It's all internally. And he has a power fixation where he wants to make a world in which his truth is the truth.
Right.
And that is how I feel about his psychology.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, the thing is that we talk about climate change. It is not going to eradicate humanity. It certainly has the potential to eradicate societies and the nature of civilization as we know it. And you look at these 100 millionaires and billionaires, and it feels like a race to make sure that they establish their progeny in this new world. I mean, there's a real sort of
I
like
can see that.
Battlestar Galactica and a Battlestar Galactica quality of this. So we're the founding fathers in the way that, you know, we're going to come out the other end of it. I mean, these it really is terrifying. And
Right,
I
it's
don't
like science fiction. It's just
and I don't have a sense at all, Heather, of what the light at the end of the tunnel looks like. I mean, I have a sense of what it looks like, but I can't even tell you which direction in this tunnel we should be looking to find that light. It's going to have to involve like a wealth tax, you know, and basically just like
economic collapse is a possibility, I guess. You know, I mean, not too bad for all the rest of us that go down with them, but you know, maybe that might change it.
Well,
I
we
don't
have
know.
crypto and gambling, like the explosion of gambling. You see the states where it's legal, how young men are in deep debt. You can bet on, like, not here in the United States, but globally on things like when will there be a ceasefire in Gaza on
doing
sites
it on
like
their phones, right? I mean, it's just like, you know.
There's so much speculation and there's so much concentration of wealth.
And it's going to fewer places.
Right.
Like fewer companies.
And I don't know where the bubble is, but there are many pockets and something's got to break because we can't have all of this speculation and all of this wealth concentration. It just doesn't seem sustainable to me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Polymarket populism.
Yep.
Polymarket populism. That's a good line.
I can't take credit for that, but I did hear it online. Digby, Heather Parton, as always, a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Do you remember those 6 months in 2021? I think it was from like February to June when we were like,
happy.
oh my gosh, for the American Rescue Act, it's all happening. Joe Manchin's talking about $6 trillion for Build Back Better.
Delivering for the American people.
Those were
That's going to be the key here. Yeah,
that was a great quarter. And then I guess we get one of those every 8 years or something.
If we're lucky,
If we're lucky. Heather Parton, thanks so much. Hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks, Heather.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
Oh, yeah. I will say this, too, about Goldfinger. Goldfinger at least had the good sense to like enjoy himself. Every time you saw him, he was sitting on a beach or he was sitting by the pool. Musk is always on Twitter.
They want to be podcasters.
Yeah.
Musk, Andreessen, Peter Thiel, and I don't know why, because they're very not suited for it, all three of them.
They honestly believe they are kings. And they
Philosopher kings.
100%. And we sit here like, how could someone be that nutso? Look, this is time immemorial. They're like the history is littered with lunatic figures like this who are fortunate enough to find themselves in a position where they end up being in power. Elon Musk is replacement level a business guy. Just so happens, right place, right time, inevitably something always wins. Whether it's like a religion or an ideology or an ethnicity or a species, there's always something that happens to have the right combination of things that allows them to thrive in a particular environment that is not necessarily, maybe some of it is planning and some of it is just, a luck. And then these guys accumulate all this stuff and they think it's all them. They think they are gods. And that's what we're looking at.
Imagine if you had like 10 years of walking into rooms with really rich people who are looking to give money out for investments, and you talk to them and they give the money out. Even if you said like, hey, we'll have self-driving by 2017, or it's a good time to get in crypto in 2022, like Andreessen Horowitz. If they get their checkbooks out, that's called positive reinforcement.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this, I've talked about this before in the context of famous, actors and celebrities, this concept of acquired narcissism. And it's really real. I mean, I have, friends who have at various times in past been, very famous. And when you walk into a room, into a restaurant, and you can, as you walk by, it's like those shaving metal shavings with the magnet, those things you would write with a kid.
Right.
That's what it's like. You walk through there and everything sort of shifts this way, like literally changes the physics in a room. For these guys, no one has said no to them. No one has not approached them as if they aren't geniuses for years, because when you get into their circle, it is because you want cash. That's it.
Yeah.
Everyone around you is there because you're the fountain of cash, and they're hoping that they will get sprayed on. And the way that you get sprayed on is by like, But
I just like the particular brand of insecurity with the tech oligarch class. It's like, I feel like it's a little bit different than the previous Gilded Ages of like JP Morgan or
Carnegie. All those guys actually did stuff.
Right. And like probably were actually talented at making deals, in the sense of like they actually had to use charisma to carry the day in some of those situations. I'm just like, I don't know, hypothesizing. But I do feel like these tech guys are fundamentally weird and antisocial at their core. And so there's like this drive for validation that is more insecure than I would think that past like barons and wealthy people were.
I think that's probably true. And the difference too, of course, at that time was like there was no infrastructure that existed in the same way. These people became robber barons by building railroads,
right.
And they did horrible things, I think, in service of that.
Oh yeah, just ground up like the bodies of their workers. But like at least like someone like Harriman knew how to like, we need to grade these railroads differently and do a different process for steel and stuff like that. What these tech guys do is break laws and break laws about like
leverage the existence of society.
Yeah, we're going to
respects.
invent cabs. Well, we already have cabs. What you're inventing is getting around like different labor protections and stuff like that.
Right.
Folks, we're going to take a break and head into the fun half of the program. You can support this program. It's a magnet. Like just like doing the play-by-play of the. I mean, this is a particularly look. This period of time from the election of someone like Donald Trump until the inauguration is the worst of times, because it's full of recriminations, and certainly the Biden administration. Some things that are coming out pretty good, coming out the door, but it's also, it's like, it is, and my sense is that Biden's been gone for a while. Dad leaves, all the kids, one of them's going to have a party. One of them's going to take the car.
He left his stationery. Quick, give it to Khazar so we can do the Cuba policy.
Exactly. I mean, on some level, there is a quality of like, the good people in the administration that we like are doing stuff like if FTC's coming out with every lawsuit they can. Anything that was in the hopper, they're getting it out the door and starting the process. John Deere, they just got rid of those, no hire agreements. The environmental stuff, they're shutting, they're blocking off some more federal lands from digging. But then, of course, also $8 billion out the door to Israel.
Right.
Everybody's trying to get their last licks in. And meanwhile, it's all speculation as to what Trump's going to do. I mean, listen, I hope, and I said this on Twitter, I hope to God that, I don't, believe in God, but you get the idea of what I'm talking about. I hope amongst anything that this ceasefire holds, that Israel no longer continues to kill Palestinians, and that aid gets in there and it gets rebuilt, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's unlikely that that's going to be the case. And I continue to think that Trump is going to be worse. We've had a ceasefire before. People seem to forget this. There was a ceasefire.
Yeah.
With a, essentially hostage exchange on both sides. Mm-hmm. And I suspect we're going to see more fighting. But certainly, the predicate for a lot of this was what Trump did in his first term. And I think we're going to see more of that in terms of allowing for the annexation of the West Bank and et cetera, et cetera. But right now people can afford to speculate and say that, the one thing that is true, that is not speculation, is the role the Biden administration played in enabling, approving, in some respects, at least in terms of facilitating this genocide. If you don't want to call it genocide, just call it ethnic cleansing. Just call it slaughter of children. Whatever makes you feel more comfortable.
I mean, is there anybody denying that it's a genocide outside of who's watching this show, outside of people who are elected to Congress?
Well, I know that
Amnesty
people watch this show talk to other people.
Okay, well, that's fair, but Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have called it a genocide. We need to move our conversation to the point where we need to start talking about right to return and a Palestinian state and a one-state democratic solution. We don't even have any Democrats that are even saying that kind of thing right now. So, but I didn't mean to jump on that. If you're still unclear about what this is, then to be honest, your eyes are closed to it.
But starting next week, Donald Trump will be president. And in some ways, it will simplify and clarify things because they're just going to start to roll out stuff that is horrible. And some of it is going to be well reported, and other parts we're going to have to do a little more digging for. For those of you listening to the free show, on Monday, we are going to play our compilation of MLK clips because it is Martin Luther King Day. Yep. My understanding is that there's also going to be an inauguration on that day of Donald Trump.
Fit in.
Now, I will say, I appreciate that Trump is showing his weakness early on by being too afraid of being out in the cold. So they're doing it inside now. It's true. They're doing the swearing in inside.
Is that just the cold, or
is it?
It's because it's cold.
Is it worried about?
Oh.
Maybe audience members on roofs.
I can't imagine that's the case. I mean, there's probably no. I mean, I would imagine they've got the security situation down. They're moving inside because I think what it probably is Trump doesn't want to see how small his inauguration crowd is again. And so often, this is equivalent like if you feel like you're self-conscious about, let's say, your sexual organ. Let's do this in the dark type of thing.
Right. Keep your shirt on the pool.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Donald Trump's doing this inside the rotunda for the same reason why I don't take my shirt off at the beach. Wear my beach rash guard shirt because,
leave some to the imagination.
Exactly.
Isn't that a thing about Trump that he doesn't take his shirt off? He doesn't swim?
Yeah, this is probably the same reason why, he doesn't take his shirt off at the pool.
Yeah.
And I encourage people, honestly, to spend, if you're on Twitter anymore, I would encourage you to talk about that. Just because it's fun. It's not going to do anything in the final analysis, but it's fun.
It'll upset Elon a little bit.
Yeah. But we will probably not be doing any coverage of the inauguration because that's not really the important thing. I know that people might be interested and want to see it being made fun of in some fashion. We will talk about it on Tuesday, but we probably won't be doing doing anything live. But we will play the MLK thing. So check in for that. Also, just a reminder, if you want to support this program, join themajorityreport.com. That's where you go to become a member. What do you get with your membership? Well, you get the free show free of commercials. You get to IM the show with our app. The app is available to everybody, but being a member unlocks some features. But most importantly, you support our work day in, day out. You insulate us from the vagaries of YouTube deciding, oh, we're not going to do political content, or let's throttle this, or let's throttle that, or Twitch saying you can't say the word hunky, or whatever it is, or whatever, I don't know. So join themajorityreport.com. Also, justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, or a hot chocolate. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. PCT Joe said crowd sizes are always smaller in the cold. So that's it's
called shrinkage.
Yep, shrinkage.
On ESPN, yesterday Bradley and I gave our picks. We talked a little bit about the great weekend coming up we have of sports, divisional weekend, and the national championship for college football. YouTube.com/ESPN show.
Matt.
And Left Reckoning, Francesca Fiorentini talking about California. We also talked about loneliness, rates rising, and some other good stuff. Patreon.com/Left Reckoning.
See you in the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks. 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Anarchy. Alpha males are back. Boys back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boys back. And the alpha males are back.
Just wanna degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman!
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder! What a fucking nightmare!
Bring back DJ Danner.
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Danner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense.
See white people doing drugs, they look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males,
psych, fuck them. Snowflake says what? What? Snowflake says what?
A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. All lives matter.
Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
And the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black African. And the alpha males are black. And the Africans are back.
When you see Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keeping it 100. Can't knock the hustle. Come on! Fuck 'em. Things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday.
Happy birthday to me, Jew boy. I have a thought experiment for you.
And the alpha males are back. Africans are black. Alpha males are black. Africans are back.
Come on. Come on. Someone needs to pay the price for blasphemy around here.
I am a total pussy.
We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland, Majority Report, Fun Half Friday. We were talking to Heather Parton about the new era of oligarchy in this country. And look,